All right. Okay, awesome. So, can somebody who's in chat let me know if you can hear me? Okay, awesome. Whoa, my TV hears me. Okay. Okay, so sorry about changing the time. Awesome. Welcome, guys. I'm really sorry about changing the time, not only tonight, but from Thursday until tonight. I was having some compatibility problems, I guess, with StreamYard, and I had a difficult time getting help resolving them. So I know it's a little late, and I'm just going to go ahead and cover some material here, and I hope you guys in chat can let me know what you think about some things. And, we'll just see how that goes. So the purpose of this live, well, it's kind of evolved. I've been taking a look at this case for about the past 2 years. So, when I first heard about this case, when it was brand new news around the time that it happened in 2018, the feeling I had about it was so horrifying. I was unable to, I didn't want to hear anything about it. And I've been a true crime fan of all sorts for my entire adult life, for sure. So it was about a year later. It was before Netflix. It was about a year later. I started looking into the case and, just got really involved in the discovery and all of the things that people are examining a little deeper now. So, I've, like most people, many people, just always felt like there was incompleteness about this case, and definitely that Nicole Kessinger, something was up with that. Gosh, we could probably spend, we could do a video or a live probably for 3 days straight talking about all the inconsistencies and alarms that she brings up, or she likes to say in her interviews, what the alerts, oh, that alerted me, oh, that didn't alert me, but anyhow, so there's that. I've noticed lately, especially, all along, there have been people who, were looking into the case and said, something's not right here. And is it law enforcement? Is it, the witnesses or, people who are there? Is it just that Chris Watts is lying? Was there something more scandalous happening? Can he just not admit to what he did because he's a narcissistic bastard? Like, there's a lot of questions. I've noticed lately, probably many of you have too, that there's a lot of theories and there are a lot of people working really hard to look at evidence and facts in this case, and things that are not evidence and things that are not exactly facts in this case. But, it's not that they're necessarily looking at the wrong thing or making it up, although maybe some are. But people have to, I think, look outside of what has been disclosed by law enforcement because it's necessary. I don't personally have a strong theory on law enforcement's role in this crime. Were they hiding information? Were they in cahoots with Anadarko? Was it the DA's office? My thoughts about that have changed also over the couple of years. But I think the fact of the matter is they definitely haven't put out all the information out there that I feel they could have or should have, just to satisfy some of the answers that we all have about this case. When you prosecute a case like this, it is of public interest, and part of the district attorney office is to answer to the public. Lots of redacted statements in discovery. I've even looked at the chat here. Oh, I'm glad it's working. It's crazy. And you guys, I don't know, the people that are in chat right now or watching, it really depends on how long you've been following this. I'm trying to stay away from the word case. I don't know, is it still a case? I don't know. This crime, this tragedy. If you've been following this tragedy for a long time, you probably know that the discovery has changed and gotten thinner. Well, no, it's not gotten thinner. Let me slow down. The discovery has changed over the years. The discovery has not gotten thinner because it looks like what they're doing is maintaining the same number of pages, regardless of how much information is taken out of the discovery or swapped with other less meaningful information is what they do. It's always, what is it, 1960 pages, I think, or 64. I think it's 1960 pages. But, they'll take out some of the things like Nicole Kessinger's phone records from the actual time of the tragedy. And then they replace it with, I think, like jailhouse, like love letters. Like people weren't supposed to know that. That's like, they thought they were tricky. So Desiree says she's been following since 2018. So, wow. So that's right around the time that Watts was sentenced, right? Yeah, that's like really, really from the beginning. And so I think I lost my train of thought there, but people are looking into all sorts of things on their own. And, there's speculation that law enforcement is looking at, what say YouTube creators are doing to give them some hints. I don't know if that's true or not, but did you guys see, I think it was maybe in the fall, this past fall or winter, when I don't get to watch a lot of lives, but I happen to be watching CDT's live, and Kelly on CDT, I'm Kelly too, but Kelly on CDT was really nervous because what she was telling people is that she requested a copy of the discovery, and there was something in there called the CUP files, the like CUP, I'm gonna write in chat, files. Maybe I'm not. I'm holding a microphone in one hand because my son broke the stand. And in the CUP files, did you guys see this? There was pictures of like some of the Facebook groups you might be in. There were pictures of, I think it was Amber the Truth Seeker. There was like a picture of her television in her living room that, had some Watts case related information. That's kind of creepy, right? So it's like, that people are definitely watching you. It's weird. Back to my point, and the point of some things that I've been looking at lately is there are a lot of theories out there. The theories have, kind of gotten bigger and more detailed and maybe involved more, persons and ideas, than they did a few months ago, a year ago. For me, I only know back to 2 years ago or so. So, I personally would look at what different creators or different people looked into, what they found. And, some of it to me was like, oh my gosh, they struck gold. Wow, they found, this really great thing. Good question, Dr. F. I'm going to talk about that first in just a minute. I noticed lately, even some of the creators I really, have historically liked, I'm just like, my feeling has been, and I'm interested to know what yours is, like, this goes a little too far. This is a little bit of a stretch. This is getting like a little hokey, maybe. I don't know. I still respect that people are doing work looking into things, but that's just been sort of my impression. So I wanted to look at some of the things that people are putting out there, and they're sort of saying, oh, this is fact now, this is evidence now, because of my work, or because this was missed, or because of our work. And I think it's really important that we don't accept things as being fact and being evidence if they're really not, or if, someone is reading discovery or some other information and they're drawing conclusions that aren't accurate for whatever reason. Maybe there's like bad intent behind it. Maybe there's not. I just really don't know. Let me see what's going on here. NK had been stalking CW and SW for 18 months. That's weird, right? So Your mean gal, are you talking about the Google searches from September 2017? I feel like I've heard at some point that maybe there was even like another piece of information, but I can't recall what it is right now. Let me see what else we have in the chat. They still have his cell phone. This case is supposed to be closed. So why won't they release his phone to the family? Ah, that's a really good question. I haven't thought of that before. That's a very good question. That makes me feel justified in calling it a case, right? Because that would indicate that it's still ongoing because it's personal property. Even when somebody commits a horrific crime, their personal property is released back to whomever the rightful owner would be at that time. Meeting him at the fireworks. That's right. So that was supposedly July 4th of 2017. Is that correct? And that like a work related thing or an industry related thing? I don't know why I never got too much information about that. Yeah. Let's see. Yeah. The ping. I don't know. She did a search. Yep. Yeah. And I do need to tell you something. I hesitate to say this because sometimes when people comment on my videos, they'll be like, oh, you know everything about everything. And I don't think I know everything about everything at all. Something I did do for a while. So, I don't consider this necessarily to be a good thing. I'm a special education teacher now, and I teach yoga, and I have a rabbitry. I have a bunch of bunnies actually right here. Those are like the things I do. I'm a mom. I'm pretty committed to what I do now. But for a long time, I was sort of like one of those jack of all trades, master of none. Is that what the saying is? So I did a few different things. One of those things was to work in site acquisition for various cell phone companies. Verizon was the main company I ended up working for in the Philadelphia and Atlantic City area. So what we would do is put additional antennas up, in Philadelphia, up on like, sky rises, or additional capabilities on cell towers, basically. And the job was to cut through the legal red tape of how you could do that. Cutting a lease, kind of like putting an oil tank on land. You have to find the right land. That land has to be approved according to federal, state, and local laws, ordinance, etc. And then you have to, make sure it's all in check and cut a deal with the property owner, and then whatever. Anyhow, the ping situation. Okay. So first of all, the ping was a ping was a ping. It was a cell phone ping. I've heard people on YouTube say it's not, and they're sure of it. I've had people take a look at this for me because, I've been so into the case. One woman was a vice president of a certain division of Verizon. They would know, and they're like, yeah, that's a ping, and there's nothing like mysterious about that. There was something else I wanted to say. Tasman Geo contract. Yep. All right. Can you hear now? Awesome. Okay. So what I was going to show you is you guys have probably heard the interview. So it's not important that you hear her voice. Sounds like you guys know her voice and what that's all about. So, right? Gross. So the important thing is that, let's see, she's talking to Kevin Kovac, and it's interesting in that interview. Every time he brings up something, you can tell he really wants to talk about. She is so good at changing the subject. I mean, I'll give her that. If there's one thing that woman is good at, it's changing the subject when she does not want to talk about something that's going to make her look bad. So, it's really crazy. I don't know. So sorry, let me just read you this from the Discovery. All right. So the important thing is is that she says that, well, there's some important things in here. Okay. So NK explained that usually if a release is reported, a team of environmental specialists responds to deal with the release. Now, that's important for a reason we might not get into today, but there's a connection there that's really important. Chris occasionally deals with a release and may be responsible for closing valves or shutting off tanks to stop the release. Chris told Nicole he was going to check out equipment and do a lockout tagout on the site if there was a release. Nicole and Chris said Chris is tasked with doing the lockout tagout and there would be a record of some type. Nicole questioned Chris about going to the job site on Monday. Now in Discovery, it says Monday, August 12th, 2018. That bothers me because that was the date when Shanann, Bella, and Cece lost their lives. I don't think that's an okay mistake to make. That's just me. But so she questioned him about going to the job site on Monday that morning and told him to prove he had been at the site. Chris responded with text messages between himself and other Anadarko employees, and in order to prove that he was at the site. Chris also sent Nicole a picture of a release. So, yeah, so that's all that needs to be known there. So she also sent him the picture of the release. So here is that release. Oops. You need to share it. And the reason you guys may have seen it, or maybe you haven't, but there's a reason to actually see the picture here in the page in Discovery that the picture is shown. Oh, little Bella. Gosh, I'm just scrolling through the Discovery and it's like the last conversation he had with his wife was like, what do you want for dinner? Green beans. Okay, I'll get it at Costco. What a, ugh. Okay. Okay, so there's a picture of the release. And it is noted in the Discovery that this picture was taken with device item 40. So device item 40 in Discovery is Chris Watt's work phone, and device item 41 is Chris Watt's personal phone. Okay, so that's just a little side note there. In NK's interview with Kobach, she does say that this picture of the release was sent from his work phone. You know, we're not giving her any points for that, but according to Discovery, she was accurate in saying that. Okay. So why that becomes more important is because I'm interested in. So anyway, she says that, you know, she got that communication from him and you're probably going to find it, Kobach, buddy, pal, you know, whatever. So, you know, we know that there were key correspondence between Watts and Kessinger that morning. Like, where are any of them? So this picture of his laptop that we don't know what it is was taken at 7:18 a.m. Well, we know from Discovery, also from the Anadarko records, whoops, that he arrived at Cervi 319 at 6:53 a.m. So if he arrived at 6:53 a.m. and that picture was taken at 7:18 a.m., that picture was taken of his laptop screen 25 minutes after he arrived at Cervi 319. So, right. So I was just looking at I'm going to catch up on the chat in a minute. So let's think about that timing. So, okay. So he got there at 6:53 and he took the picture at 7:18, 25 minutes. So according to his account of what happened that morning, he unloaded his wife and, put her remains in a very disgustingly disrespectful, shallow grave. I just can't even. And covered it up with some dirt, it's noted in Discovery and by people who, recovered her body that she was just kind of rolled in there. It's noted that no attention was given to lay her down or do anything respectful. Okay. So 25 minutes. Would that take 25 minutes? Right. Exactly. Dr. F. Yes. So do you think that, and I mean, I don't know, because I've never, done a really poor job of burying someone's body in a disrespectful way. I wonder, do you think the timing of 25 minutes would mean that we took care of Shanann's body, and then if his account was even kind of correct, then he was thinking about what to do with the oil tanks? I don't know. It's hard for me to even talk about. I don't want to be callous, but it's a hard thing to talk about. Troy and CW were meeting, change the fire stick. Was it right? Okay, so these are all of my questions. You're hitting all the questions I have, Dr. F. So Chris was, yes, more interested in proving to NK was on the screen, and was the grave pre-dug. So was the grave pre-dug? So I have heard people make very good arguments for the grave was pre-dug, and decent arguments for her body was not put there until after Tuesday. I'm starting to back off of finding so much validity in that theory, but people have made good arguments. It's hard to imagine that he would have dug the shallow grave that morning and had enough time, like you said, Desiree D, to do everything that would have had to be done. So let's see. Troy for meetings, change the fire stick. Cody called. Right. So anyway, that timing is interesting. And it would be so interesting to see the digital data from that morning, because did he send that picture to NK? It was only a short time later when he sent her a picture of the release, because she needed him to prove where he was, which is weird in itself. So it'll be very interesting to know that. Oops, where did you guys go? Let me see the chat here for a minute. Oops. Mm-hmm. Right. All these things. Let's see. Where are his texts? Where are his texts? How did he find out to call Troy? So what do you mean, Dr. F? How did he find out to call Troy? What do you mean by that? Cody notified. Okay, so Desiree. Mm-hmm. Right. Right. Now, Desiree, are you referring to the calls and texts he was making to his coworkers, like, asking them where they were going to be and all that jazz? To jailbreak it. Right. And why? I mean, okay, so what's the purpose of a fire stick? So, yeah. So, what is the purpose of the fire stick? And hey, how are you, Renee? Thanks for coming. Okay, so the fire stick. So it doesn't. Oh God, there's so many topics to cover. I'm sorry we're kind of jumping all over here, but you're saying such great things in chat. I mean, yeah. Desiree, he called the realtor, he called the girls' school, all of these things he did on his work phone. And when he communicated with the realtor and Meadows previously, that was often done on his personal phone. Now, obviously, he had them both there because we have digital data showing that he used both phones. It's just so very interesting things. And I don't think that it's arbitrary regarding what or why he used his work phone versus his personal phone. And, you know, we need to know more about that, but it's not, the information's not there in Discovery, and it just leaves people guessing and coming up with theories. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Morris, Illinois. Very cool. I'm in upstate New York, Renee, which is very much like Illinois, like rural Illinois. It's very rural around here. I lived there in Center City, Philadelphia for almost 20 years, but I'm living back up here. Okay. All right. So let's lay this out. So, all right. The situation with the leak and Chris Watts apparently learning about it and volunteering to handle it. And the exchange of the fire stick is just very bizarre. Okay, first of all, with the fire stick, it's still not clear to me why it would be so important for Chris Watts to have to meet with somebody that he would see at work Monday morning. Why it's so important for him to make a special trip on a Friday evening or afternoon to give him this fire stick, which is a little thing, and have him so Troy could start jailbreaking it right then. Why was that so important? Why couldn't that little fire stick be given to Troy on Monday morning if he really needed to have the jailbreak? So when I see some of you are asking questions as to what happened. He dropped Shanann off at the airport to go on her trip, and he had Bella and Cece in the Lexus with him. So he then meets Troy McCoy, his coworker, in a parking lot in Firestone, or may not be right about that, somewhere, and to give McCoy apparently the fire stick to jailbreak. And at that moment, you know, based on everyone's account, their meeting was very quick. But in that moment, in that very quick meeting, apparently Cody Roberts called Troy McCoy to say that there was a problem, there was a possible leak at Cervi 319. And Troy McCoy responded in such a way, apparently, Chris Watts knew what Troy was talking about. So he then volunteered to go out there on Monday morning, which is, you know, where the oil tanks are and whatnot. Let's see. Oh, Syracuse. I'm near Syracuse. I'm about an hour from Syracuse. Yep. Let's see. And I had some of Troy McCoy's interview to play for you guys, but because the audio is being a little weird, I'm not sure if I can. Oh, there we go. Watch the Troy McCoy. Yeah, right. Right. Exactly. Right. Yes. How did Cody find out about the leak? Was it from NK? from being out there? That is a very good question that I have looked into and I haven't found the answer to. Does anyone else know the answer? Oh, turquoise. Work on Friday. Okay. Okay, so was Cody Roberts turquoise, which is my favorite color, by the way, out at the site on Friday? Oh, thanks, Renee. Troy and CW and NK all did. That's right. That's right. You're bringing up such good things. Oh my gosh, there's so many facts. Troy, Chris Watts, and Nicole Kessinger all did not work on Friday. So, okay. Cody was at the Cervi site on Friday. Right. That's what I want to know. Okay. Right. Desiree, coincidental. Right. Cody also lived with Troy McCoy. That's right. So there's another thing. Okay. So, all right. Okay. Here we go. Whoops. I'm going to close down the shared document here. Stop sharing. Okay. So, all right. So listen. So Cody Roberts, who called Troy McCoy to tell him about the leak, which just happened to be when Troy McCoy was very briefly meeting Chris Watts on a day when none of them worked. Well, Cody did. He lives with Troy McCoy. Cody lives with Troy McCoy. So it's almost like this was late Friday afternoon, right? So it's almost like, I mean, I guess he's working. He had to call him to let him know. But maybe that could have happened when he saw him at home shortly thereafter. And then with Chris Watts, making a special trip to meet him, to give him the Fire Stick, when that could have been done a couple days later. What was so important about that? I don't know. These, again, on their own, they seem like such small things, but when you put them all together, it's a big WTF. Right. Right. Your main gal. Right. So what? Right. Right. Yeah, they live together. Yep. Yep. Cody Roberts and Troy McCoy live together. You have family where? In Syracuse? Or was that somewhere else? Making your work as... Yes, thank you. And you're right, Renee. This was not handled correctly. Right. Right. It's just so weird. Oh my gosh. There's so many things you're saying. I'm writing down little notes here because there are things that you're mentioning here that, you guys probably have information on them, but I didn't start doing videos on YouTube until the end of May because I was in grad school until then. So I'd been watching about this case for 2 years and I was like, I want to make a video so bad. I was learning how to do video editing and stuff, which I'm very, very, very new at. So I just had so many notes of things that I had looked into here and there, but we're going to look into a lot of these things deeper. Whoops. They met at Fort Lupton at 3 p.m. for the Fire Stick. Thank you, Dr. F. So, all right. So get this. So it's said several times in Discovery or by the Anadarko guys in their interviews that their workday is from 6 to 3 or something like that, right? So 6 a.m. to 3 p.m. So if they met up at 3, and Cody's calling Troy at 3 and they live together, I don't, that call just feels so staged to me. I don't buy it. Oh, let's see. So let's listen to this from Troy. This is going back to, this is a video of mine I couldn't play. This is going back to when we were discussing the picture that Watts took of his laptop screen. Oh, I need to crop down. So, okay. I don't know, you guys may have heard this before, but I just, this certainly isn't proof, but this wraps up a lot for me. So here we are with the, it's 7:18 a.m. on the morning of August 13th, 25 minutes after he arrived at Cervi 319. Watts took this photograph of his laptop while he was sitting in his truck. And when they tried to enlarge it, they couldn't because, well, they could, but didn't matter because they say that trying to enlarge it blurs out the writing on the laptop screen. So Watts took a picture of something that had writing. So, okay, well, what's that? Let's see. Okay. Just a minute.
Steve or
Oops.
Renati.
Hold it.
Call.
I got a little ahead of myself there. Huh. Whoop. Okay. All right. So this is just a little tiny part of Troy McCoy with dry mouth, right? He mentioned that a couple of times to the investigator. Dry mouth because I got a partial whatever. I don't know. Okay, so this is a part of his interview. So listen up.
Steve or Renati a call, and he has a echo meter type deal where he shoots nitrogen into the backside of the casing, so you can see the fluid level. So actually, he shot it into the tubing, but you can see the fluid level on his computer because it can tell you that sound waves that runs down the well, tell you where all the callers are and everything. I stayed out there while they shot the fluid level.
Okay, so did you guys catch that? So he is saying that, so the investigator's asking something about, I just saved that little audio clip. I wish that I had knew what the investigator asked. I can't remember. He asked him something about if there was a leak. I don't know. But Troy McCoy responded talking about the fluid level in the oil tanks. And did you guys all hear that? Have you heard that before? Do you want it replayed? You good? He said that Steve Erganati, somebody that they work with, has an echo meter, and the echo meter is able to determine the level of fluid in those tanks. And he said that when he does that, it generates some kind of a report that's sent right to every field operator's laptop so they can know what they're dealing with. Was that a picture? Was that the picture that Chris Watts took on his laptop at 7:18 a.m.? I don't know. What do you guys think? Yeah. That's kind of just always been, that's, I always, that was one of the first things that just really jumped out to me, tying, Chris Watts, kind of premeditating things and possibly, having NK wrapped in on the plan. That's just what it feels like to me. NK's phone pinged, yes. Yeah. Yep. Yep. Yeah. So Nicole Kessinger's phone. All right. So let's think about this timeline. So Nicole Kessinger's phone pinged at 6:16 a.m. the morning of Monday, August 13th in Frederick, Colorado. And her phone, apparently, the only time in the investigative window that her phone had pinged, window of time, that her phone had pinged in Frederick, like ever before in that window of time, was the time when she and Chris Watts both said that she went to his house. Man, that's weird. And I'm trying to look for that digital data, the bill. I have it somewhere. So much stuff. And the other really crazy thing about that is there was no activity on NK's phone. We do know that, well, according to what we know, is how I should say that. There was no activity on NK's phone from when the 111-minute call ended at, like, I can't remember the exact time. I have that somewhere too. This is all my video. I couldn't share. Anyway, like, so let's say it was midnight. It was like 11, midnight, 1. I can't remember all these times right off the top of my head right now because there's so much information. So there was no activity on her phone from the end of that call until her phone pinged in Frederick, Colorado at 6:16 a.m. the morning of the murders. Do you think someone else was somehow involved?
I really, in my deep part of my soul, believe absolutely yes.
Yeah, I
I
know.
really do. There's so much that's like what points to that from the camera footage. Like if you really like look at the people that are online studying the camera footage and like the suspicious vehicle showing up and the text and the ping and the morning of the murders and just her interviews and the dad, like Dwayne, there's something really off about that. You can feel it in the interview and you listen like it's like he's interviewing them almost, you know,
Yes.
like, how dare you ask my daughter this question? You're leading Kevin, you know, like,
You know, and it's like, well, we know that NK has like no sense of herself, right? I mean, just, oh my God. So
like total, like tone deaf. She's just tone deaf.
totally,
Yeah.
and heartless. And
Yes.
so, I mean, so it would be reasonable to believe, okay, well, maybe your dad's like that too. Maybe it's a genetic flaw, something like that. But I mean, what grown ass adult has the nerve, or if it believes they're entitled to talk to like a FBI or CBI agent like that? And
Mm-hmm.
what investigator, you know, doesn't have the skills to retake over the conversation, which Kovac never did. I mean, there's something intentional there. I almost feel like there's like people like, you know, if they're like, oh, you know, they pause somebody like holding up cue cards, like, say this now.
Yeah.
You know, it's weird.
I've heard the tape so many times, like, because I've been sucked into this case for years now too, like along with so many other people. And you know, we're all on YouTube and we're watching and listening. The discovery is out, so anyone that requests it can kind of get it and comb through it. And you just see so much that doesn't add up, and it's infuriating. Like,
I know.
come on.
I know. And it's like, it is. And then, you know, it's like, and then, you know, we, you know, it's been through the YouTube community, you know, we know that others feel this way. And, you know, like you first said, like you feel it deeply in your soul. I know exactly what you mean. And I know other people feel that way too. And when there were so many red flags, and, you know, like I was saying, and like many people just know, she committed some pretty serious crimes when she deleted those text messages and destroyed her SIM card. And I was looking into this, and when, you know, that offense in itself is a whatever level of, whatever level of criminal charge, depending on the crime that was committed relative to your tampering with or destroying evidence. And when you're talking about a multiple victim homicide, like that's a felony in itself.
Yes, I agree. Absolutely.
Witness my ass,
Yeah.
I don't know.
She's being, they're calling her suspect number 2 on YouTube right now.
Are they?
Well, some people are, yeah. Suspect number 2
Yeah,
without even saying your name. Like, we know who that is.
totally. And, I just think that, I don't know, as far as, what the whole story is, because, what we've been told doesn't make sense, and we all know it. So whatever the real story is, it just, you just got to pull that NK string and it's going to unravel. But without doing that, I don't know. Now, I just wanted to say in chat,
all that. So I don't know. It's all I can think. And maybe her dad having connections just helps seal the deal. And
right.
also, I heard, I don't know if this is true. I heard that Chris pled guilty in exchange for leaving NK alone. Like back then, he was like, I'll plead guilty. You can just no trial, just close the book on me, leave her alone. She had nothing to do with it. And they agreed. So that could be a possibility too, maybe. I don't know.
I've heard that too. And I think at the same level as you, I've heard it often. And when I've heard people, say, this is why I think that, or if they say this is why I know that, it makes good sense. So I was like, maybe, but geez, that's so crazy. But
that is crazy. Yeah. I think it's more maybe the other thing.
Yeah. But I mean, just if we look at just the mistakes in discovery, and I'm not talking about, like, when I was just reading in the beginning of our live here, I was reading, NK, when she asked Chris to prove that he was at work that morning, and they say August 12th, and it's August 13th, and that's the day those people were murdered, and you should not screw that up.
Yeah, I don't know how that
little
happened.
mistake, though. The number of, but I mean, to me, it's like a big mistake. I think that's like just messed up. Like, I think it's like almost disrespectful, but
it is.
The number of material errors in that document is insane.
Is it? There's a lot.
Yeah. Not just like facts they get wrong, or
oh yeah.
Things all the things we've been talking about. It's so much,
it's too much.
Like that is always said to me, there has to be some degree of a cover up, because
and why aren't they showing her text between
what's that?
Right. And why aren't they showing like her other searches and her text between her and Chris the mornings of the murders, and like, or the day before? There's a lot they're not revealing. A lot,
I think that there was I've heard from a couple sources. This is it's something like they have 392 pages of her search history during the time that they were allowed to, investigate her, which was was it May 1st or June 1st till the murder? It was 2 or 3 months. Okay.
Yeah.
I can't remember all these details.
It sounds right.
Yeah. And so 392 pages. And you saw how, when they show her Google search history, it's laid out where you can fit several history items on a page. I mean, she was spending that for as much time as she was spending with Chris Watts. And then, of course, she was also working. And apparently she was also hanging out with her friends whenever she wanted to, and telling Chris to go play with his whatever. That's not true.
Sure.
She was spending a whole lot of time looking shit up on Google. That's a lot, like there's stuff there for sure.
Yes.
392 pages, or it's in the high 300s.
And that's not included anymore. Those pages you're saying, those are not anymore included.
Correct. Mm-hmm.
Wow. That's a lot.
And I think the bulk of it was never included.
Wow.
Yeah. It's crazy.
I don't know how they don't answer for the, like, they must have to answer. I don't get it. I don't get how they're not being held, like, question about this. Like,
No, I know. I mean, I wonder, I just feel like there's like, can like the attorney general take notice, or like there's got to
yeah.
be somebody on the federal level, or I don't know. There's got to be, because this is messed up.
Well, there is a documentary coming out
Oh,
that's
I
supposed to
heard about that.
reveal all. And I happen to follow this guy on YouTube, but that's not why I'm interested in it. I really think it's going to show all the stuff we're talking about and all the other YouTubers like you that are trying to, shed light on what's happening or whatever. And
Now, who is
yeah,
it
it
that you
has,
think
yeah.
chat really quick? I think the
Yeah.
life insurance was a big deal breaker too. Turquoise. So do you mean that he was going for the life insurance? She says that was sus too. Let me just go back up. Okay, yeah. And then let's see, connections. Hi, Renee. Renee and oh, you guys know each other. Yay.
Hi, Renee.
Lots of family. Well, it's not the right thing to say. Yay. We're all lots
True crime puppies.
Many connections. Yeah. That's why. So Desiree says that's why they brought him back in for the second interview for Troy McCoy. Okay. Did you hear on his interview he went to say he was heading home at 6 and Ellie said 4? You mean you were heading home at 4? Desiree, I know. Did you guys catch that? It was like
I didn't.
law enforcement was in Troy McCoy's interview. That was one of the key parts what Desiree just mentioned when he says, I was going home at 6 and the law enforcement was like, 4. You were heading home at 4, weren't you? And he's like, yeah.
Oh my, like he was feeding him the information,
Yes.
like correcting him. Wow.
Yeah, either like remember the story or watch what you're saying, or it was very bizarre, right? Do you think?
Wow.
Yeah, it was. Oh, I wish I had that. I'll find it and do a video or have it the next live. I want to.
Awesome.
I've done a lot of research on Troy McCoy, and that was initially what I was going to just talk about, but then I saw some other channels doing some things that disagreed with my information, so I want to recheck mine. But I think the information that I have that I would say is information, not my opinion. I think it's solid, but I don't ever want to put crap out there,
Yeah, he's a mystery to me. I don't, something's just off about him. I'm not sure what to think about Troy McCoy. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Do you agree? Something's
I
off.
do.
Something's
I
not
do
right.
agree. I do agree. What do you guys in chat think of Troy McCoy? I think the fact that he did not tell law enforcement that he went back to Cervi 319 on Tuesday, that's not
really
like a
sketchy.
whoops.
Yeah.
No, that's very sketchy. And I felt like he was clearly super nervous. And, when you're being questioned by law enforcement, especially at like that level, it could be intimidating, I'm sure. I've never have been, but I could imagine that. But, when he's like, he was so nervous. It sounded like he was having a panic attack. And he said, my mouth is really dry. I had a partial dental something worked on. And, the investigator's like, oh, okay. Huh?
Big.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Desiree says, Troy did not seem to feel bad for Shanann or the girls. And Turquoise thinks he's suspect as well. And Kelly, just on your channel, you say, oh, awesome. Thank you so much. Welcome. Glad you're here. Troy did not. Yeah. One time when he was leaving the interview, it was with a female. Was it with Stacy? It's late. My brain's. It was one of the females, and he said, "Yeah, I do anything I can do to like help my boy out, Chris. And she goes, and hopefully also find Shanann and the girls. And he was like, oh yeah, okay.
Oh, that too. Like, yeah. Hello.
Yeah, he didn't. He seemed to have no. Who I think it was it Dave and Seeing Truth with Dave? Somebody I was watching recently, and
I watch him. Yep.
Yeah, and he
Dave.
said,
yeah.
I think it was him. They're like, what the hell is this? Is everyone connected to this case of freaking heartless narcissist? Like, what is wrong?
Yeah.
With everyone?
Good point. Exactly. That's what it seems like. Yeah.
which
Like,
is
and the
it's like,
victim blaming and the victim shaming and the victim
yeah,
bashing just right from
yeah,
the get-go is
yeah.
terrible.
And then, all right, so then let's see. Oh God, they're talking about a lot of stuff. Okay, hold it. Oh yeah, so wearing a final. I know. Okay, so then Kelly says again, those tire tracks don't lie. Right. I'm
Mhm.
sorry, but they were backed all the way up to the fence. Right.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, there was no, even there, some people said, oh, it was like construction. No, it didn't make any sense for it to be like that. Like,
No.
why would they have had to maneuver right there where there wasn't space to maneuver when there was a whole open area?
Where
Doesn't
they
make
could
sense.
have gone, right,
Yeah.
exactly. That was
Makes
pulled right up to that fence.
Yeah,
Right up.
right up to it. It just, and how was that just ignored in Discovery too? How?
Yes. Thank you. I just don't
It's
get it.
just, and people said they brought that to law enforcement's attention, like, immediately. I don't know what the
Did
exact
they
time.
really? I didn't
Yeah,
know. I didn't know if that came out till later, and they just ignored
yeah.
it. They
They
just
just ignored it. Yeah.
ignored.
So anyway, Turquoise says the silence about Cece compared to Bella that night. Yes. So interesting. I talk about this in one of my videos too, that Chris Watts he said he favored Cece, or he was closer to Cece. He said
Yes,
Cece
he
was a
did.
daddy's girl. He favored Cece because he says he didn't know what to do with Bella when she was a baby. But when I just put some videos up of him with Bella when she was a baby, he looks pretty comfortable with her. So whatever. He lies about everything. So he always talks about, dotes over, talks to, interacts with more Cece. So the fact that he said almost nothing about Cece but gave more detail about Bella is very weird because he ignored Bella a lot. It's a good point, Turquoise. And then Kelly says, and the cadaver dogs, yep, would have hit on the truck if she was thrown on the floor at a 45-minute
Yes.
ride. Well, with
Did they
that,
even go near the truck? I don't see them ever go
yes.
near it when they go
So
outside.
this is what happened. I have a video on this too. I'm not trying to plug my videos. I'm just like thinking like
No, I'll check them
these are such
out.
good. So they okay. Here's the thing with a cadaver dog. So okay. So one of the dogs went outside the truck, and it was Jane's dog, and the dog kind of indicated, barked, started acting different. I wonder if I can find it. I'm writing down things that I'm going to make sure I follow up with. And Jane said something like, that's not a hard signal or something like that. And then she kind of pulled the dog away. She did this many times.
She did.
So this was outside the truck. And, people that I just heard speak about it, that know more about this. To me, the dog was clearly acting different. I think anyone would agree on that. The dog got excited around the truck. Like, I'm not trained with those kinds of dogs, but people that know more about animal behavior were like, that the dog signaled, she screwed up. But why did they never go inside the truck? Oh, this is so interesting. Well, immediately, like then. The truck is property of Anadarko, so they would have needed a search warrant to go into the truck. That was a reason for not going into the truck. They need a search warrant. Who cares? They're law enforcement. Get a freaking search warrant.
Yeah,
That's
they
what
can get them for nothing. I mean, basically nothing. It's a triple homicide,
Right. But then when, finally, so that, I think that was a huge, huge screw up. And then, this kills me. We know that law enforcement well knows that truck at that time, as far as they were saying, was a critical piece of this crime. They have the security camera footage when Graham Coder and Tammy Lee are interrogating or questioning whatever point it was Chris Watts. Tammy Lee says, Chris, we know those girls were in your truck. There was a security camera footage. There's no other way they left the house because one thing we know is that those girls were in your truck.
I remember that. You're right.
Yes. They didn't bother.
There must have been other footage. Is that what you're saying?
No. What I'm saying is that if she the head investigator on this case was so certain that those girls and Shanann were in that truck, why did they not bother to get a search warrant to go into that truck? And then when they did finally go into the truck, they gathered, let's see, I have this here. Oh, this kills me. They collected, I have to show you guys this. Give me a second here. All right. Oh, it's right here. And then, okay. And then the letter from Baumhover. Oh, good. I've got right here. Okay. Okay. And do you guys know about this? Let's see. Can I share? Yeah, I can share my screen. So I'm going to share my screen real quick. So share screen. Yes. Okay. So, whoops. Okay. Where's my photos? Chrome tab. Okay. Okay, I think I'm going to do it like this. I'm going to do entire screen. And we'll see if I get there because this is really important stuff. Okay. Now I'm going to go here. All right. Okay. Can you guys see what I'm sharing, the document?
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
I went
Okay, I'm
everyone, but I
relying
thought
on
I'd
you,
just let
mean
you know.
girl. Okay.
Yeah.
So they collected, these items were not, these items that were not taken. Okay, anyway, so they did collect driver's side seat cover work truck. They collected trace evidence, trace lifts from the center console of the work truck, and trace lifts from the dryer side, it says here, but they mean driver's side. There's so many typos. Back seat. They had trace lifts from the seat cover of the driver, the console, and the back seat. And it's not on this page, but it's on a different one. They had DNA swabs from the work truck steering wheel. And these items of evidence that were collected were refused for analysis by CBI.
Oh my God, that's corruption right there. Couldn't they
Yeah.
flip the case just on that, withholding evidence?
Yes. So it should say,
Oh
oh
my
my God.
God.
All right, listen. Oh my God. Oh my God. It should be noted that on September 4th, 2018, while running through the evidence submission list with lab tech Patricia Lopez, several items were listed on the CBI lab. Ultimately, did not. They were listed. There were several items listed that the CBI lab ultimately did not wish to take possession of at that time.
God.
The items are crossed out of the evidence submission form, which has been added to the case file. The refused evidence items are as follows.
So all of those and the last three were pointing out, or just the last three?
All of them were
All of them.
used evidence, but oral swabs from the victims, palm. I can see that, I guess. I think they should have analyzed
But the
every
last
freaking
three are
foot.
like major.
But
Yeah.
the trace lifts from the work truck, and then somewhere else it talks about they did take DNA. They did collect DNA from the steering wheel, but that also just never made it to be analyzed.
Wow.
Yet,
I just can't believe it.
Tammy Lee made this huge point a few times of saying to Chris, one thing we do know is that they were in your truck.
Yeah, she did.
It's insane.
I wonder who else could have been in there. Maybe, possibly.
Right. The trace lifts would have, oh my God. It's crazy. Okay, back to chat for a minute. Okay, the cadaver dogs would have hit on the truck if she was thrown. Yes. All right. So then Turquoise says the different descriptions of the clothing, the different descriptions of the clothing. Yes, that's right. That's really important too. It's freaking these little girls' bodies that were disposed of in such a disrespectful way, and they can't even get the that wasn't good either. Now, Turquoise, let me know, what do you think about that? I mean, do you think that means something? I've heard some I don't know, like discussion about that recent. I don't know. Let me stop sharing real quick here. Let me know if you think that means anything specific. All right. Okay. And then Desiree says autopsy shows Shanann didn't pass away until Tuesday. I've heard this from Mia. She wasn't fully out of rigor mortis when they dug her up or started the autopsy the following day. I don't know enough about what happens to a body physiologically after death to even touch that. But I've heard that people very strongly believe that, and some experts believe that. And then Desiree also says, yes, turquoise. The medical examiner got the girl's hair colors wrong and calling Bella an adolescent. It's so messed up.
Oh.
Was it even them? Right. Okay. This caused a lot of problems. That's what recently. Yeah. What I initially heard about Bella being referred to as an adolescent, and this is just so awful, but this is what I initially heard, was that it was like the effects of the crude oil that, I don't know, whatever it did to her body, you know. I don't know. I this is way out of my wheelhouse, so I only can go on what other people.
But still, the fact that they're saying all that such inaccuracies on personal things like clothing and specifics like that is very disrespectful feeling, you know? Like, these are little girls, precious little girls that were brutally killed, and it's just awful.
I agree. I mean, I don't understand why every detail of this case was not handled with the utmost respect and care and completeness. It makes no sense. I mean, what are these, a bunch of savages investigating this case? I just don't understand.
Yeah.
There's
something else at play, I think, Kelly. There's something else at play involving DAs or Weld County, something else at play that, you know, there just
What do you think that is? Or what are some things that you've heard that what are your thoughts?
I don't know. I don't know for a fact, but I know that from what we've seen and heard and what we've studied, that there's a lot of things covered up and redacted and not included and being covered up. And then on top of it, you know, if you look into Weld County at all, that a lot of corruption's going on over there, and people are being prosecuted for really sketchy things. And then on top of it, which I'm sure you know this too, is Chris's lawyer now works for the other side. Like, almost immediately was given a position over for the side that was prosecuting him.
Right.
It's just weird.
And for a lawyer, and I don't know what his position was, but, you know, being given a decent position in the district attorney office is much more prestigious and pays better than being a public defender.
That's true.
So yeah, that's.
But I mean, don't you think it's a little weird that, like, he's representing him?
No, I'm saying it makes it all the more suspect. Like, almost like it was like a incentive for him, you know, or a you know, like a pay, like a, you know, like a payoff almost, you know, or I don't know.
Yeah, like, make sure, Chris, like, make sure this happens, and then we'll make sure you're transferred and promoted.
We'll take care of you. Yes.
I
mean,
because he didn't seem like he was doing much videos. I mean, he just kind of sits there.
I know. He's like, it's sort of like a lump on a log. Like, yeah, the defense, that was weird. And also, here's another thing. There's so many things I started to look into, but, you know, it's weird because it's like, you know, there's something there. And there's been times where I've checked myself and been like, all right, like, are you losing your mind? Is this sane? Like, are you going too far with this? Are you a little too obsessed? You know, and I'm like, no, these are legitimate.
I ask myself that every day. I feel a little better now.
But it's like, it's crazy. But okay, so when
it really
so many things. When they did their very short and not, I don't know. When they searched the house as a crime scene after Watts was arrested.
Oh, that was awful.
What's that?
that was not, they didn't do that.
No,
They
they
didn't do
didn't.
that the right way at all. No, they were
No.
throwing it in
And then,
garbage bags and yeah.
yep, they not protocol at all. I know it was crazy.
And they
And
were
I
letting
didn't.
everybody in and out too. They were
Yep,
letting
yep.
everybody in. They didn't tape it up or anything.
That's right. Well, okay, so Amanda and Nick there come to pick up Dieter, and there's video of this. It's heartbreaking to watch. Oh, it's just so sad. But then it's one of the female officers, and her name again is escaping me, but two men walk up, and she's like, they have a little back and forth, and he says, I'm from the DA's office, and she said, oh yeah, okay, you don't look like reporters. And they want to go in the house. There's another guy with them. And she's like asking for identification. What's your name? Stephen Wren. Desiree says those dog bark so freaking much. Jane ignored her dog, in my opinion. She did.
Yes. And
You guys see the
they say
video?
a dog's only as good as its handler, right?
That's
Sniffing
right.
dog. And she wasn't, I don't think she meant any ill will. She just was kind of out
No.
there. She seemed a little like maybe she was at retirement age or something. It wasn't just,
Yeah,
she wasn't on the ball like she was maybe back in the day. I don't know.
I agree with that 100%. And did you guys see the video where they're walking them by the dog by the dumpster?
Yes. And he's alerting to the dumpster for like 5 whole minutes and she just
So
keeps walking by
clearly.
him.
I mean, the dog stops, points, signals, and she's like, keep going, keep going.
Yeah.
And that's where he dumped. That's where he stopped. That's the exact spot where he stopped 4 minutes before going home to greet Officer Coonrod. I mean, ugh.
Yes, and he got rid of definitely some evidence there that they probably never collected.
No, they didn't, because that dumpster had the contents had already been taken to the dump, and they decided it wasn't worth. They wouldn't be able to. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah, they said, but it's funny because in Discovery it says that every Tuesday the contents of that dumpster goes to the local dump or whatever. Is that what the right word is? Yeah. And so I can't remember what day crazy. Oh my God. I know about Bella. I know. Oops. So Desiree says his truck had sensors in it showing if others were in the seats. It never told that anyone was in the truck besides CW. That's right. And I know some other creators covered this, including I know Red X Files did a really good
I watched that. Yeah.
video on that. And then now I can't remember what her conclusion. I think our conclusions were different, but I found what the information that I found out by looking at this particular truck model, looking at what Anna Darko was leasing at the time for their fleet and the contracts that they had regarding outfitting their fleet of trucks. Number one, there were sensors in the back seat, and I'm not as certain about this next one, but I looked into whether or not there was like a feature to remotely start the truck, including turning on the headlights because of the security camera footage. And from what I found, there was not, but they could have been like an add-on or something. I don't know.
But did you say they didn't say that anyone else was in the truck besides CW, or there was some? There could have been. They don't know.
So she said it had sensors in the truck, and they were in the back seat, and I'm very, very sure of that. And then Desiree says it never told that anyone was in the truck besides CW, and that's correct, because what the truck, what the system did would report any unusual activity, movements, anything that was out of Chris W's norm. It would report on the what's it called? I can't think of words right now. They would get a report. There's a name for it. I'll remember it tomorrow morning. But there was no such thing. So that's all really weird because if the girls weren't in that truck, it would have Ann and Darko would have gotten a report signaling that they were in the truck, especially for that length of time. I don't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is weird.
And I feel very, very, very sure about that. That was actually the one thing that pushed me over the fence to say, okay, they weren't in, they couldn't have been. I don't know. I wonder if they ever had the correct little girl documented in the autopsy. They have switched them, and it would mean that Cece's mouth had been hurt. Oh, but hey, you know what? I hadn't
Yes.
thought about that, but fully possible considering how careless that was done.
Yeah.
And then Desiree says that Mia has medical background. Oh, cool. That's good to know. I want to watch more of her videos on this. I need to learn more. I've heard she's very good. Renee really loves Mia. I need to get in on the love. Netflix documentary really sucked. I just watched that last night.
Yeah. Oh, the Chris Watts one, The American Murder Next Door, whatever it's called. Yeah. I feel like it's censored and not very accurate. Like it's more covering up, you know.
I was visiting my mom and I was telling her about my YouTube channel, and she doesn't really know too much about the case, and the stuff I was showing her was too harsh for her. So I was like, let's watch the Netflix document. It's G-rated.
Perfect.
Let's see. Desiree says 4 separate fingerprints found on trash bags that were not Chris or Shanann's. What's up with that? And they didn't.
Bizarre.
It is too. I also
Very
don't
telling.
know as much about that issue as other people do. That's what else do you know about that, Desiree? And then Turquoise says, just like the John Bonet case. Yeah. A lot of unanswered questions that you think people care more about. And then, Lee 383. Hi, Lee. How did the DA first get away with releasing the property only hours before court? And also not complying. Whoops. It's something popped up here. Not complying with the 48-hour notice for the autopsy.
Yes, I was going to say that. They
Everything
did it without
was-
even notifying them. Right after the judge ordered that, he ordered that they give them 48 hours notice, and they didn't.
That's right. And then they
So
turned
the
around.
autopsy could have been anything. They could have made it up for all we know because his team wasn't there, you know?
Right. There was no, I mean, our system of justice is based on checks and balances. There were none in this case. It was just like the DA's office or whatever, like ran with the ball, and like it was one team playing. I mean, it was weird. And as far as the investigation goes, wow. Wow. Autopsies, Renee says, autopsies that were reported to the press, etc., and the public did not match what was written. I didn't know that. There's more inquiries on all 3 bodies than was being reported to the public. I did not know that. Wow. Oh my gosh. Everyone likes Lee's comment a lot because this was right. Yeah. Hi, Lee. That was a really good contribution you made there.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Nancy Grace. I love Nancy Grace. I know. Why is HLN no more like that? All right. I'm still upset. Casey Anthony was acquitted. I know. That still burns me.
I am too. Oh my God. I shouldn't laugh. It's not funny, but yeah.
I know. Oh yeah. Yeah, Plunder had that. There's footage of Casey Anthony getting in a bar fight recently.
Really? Oh, I watched Plunder. I'll have to check that out.
Yeah, she's got Plunder's awesome. She gets great stuff that I've never seen before. Love Plunder.
Yeah.
Never investigate further, of course. And then, okay, Desiree just said, we're caught up now. Renee, yes, I was furious when she was found not guilty. Yeah, that was not good. Not good at all. Wow, that's freaking not good stuff. Oh my goodness. You know what? It's after 1.
Yeah, it's late. You must be right.
It is getting late. I just kind of like hit a wall. I'm like not finding words and stuff. Oh,
yeah,
wait,
I feel like I'm getting there
I
too.
know. thanks for being on the panel. Let's see what Lee says here. Too many holes in this case. Yep. And you know what, Lee, you just brought us back to exactly where we started. She says too many holes in the case and the redactions. They do nothing but leave even more questions. Absolutely. And we talked about Lee in the very beginning of this. We've been on for 3 hours. And thanks so much, guys. That the first discovery put out was more robust, but the same number of pages than the one that they currently will give somebody if they request for the discovery, and they took out like all of the good stuff, all of the critical stuff, and filled it in with like love letters to Chris Watts in prison.
Yeah.
It's just such a shame.
And that's why we have so many questions, because they keep removing answers.
Yes, I agree. Hold it. Okay, Mike. So he says, not trying to not be fun. It's okay, Mike, be real. But if you listen closely about the dog and the house and the dumpster, they put the son of the girls at the location to test. Promise, listen closely to voice off camera. Yes, Mike, they do. The woman, law enforcement, I can't keep thinking of her name, was on the phone with her dad, who is like a ranger and something else. I can't remember.
Oh, by the safe house there. Yes.
He had experience working with search and rescue dogs, because was it the dog Scout, Jane's dog, wasn't the best fit for this job. He was used to doing search and rescue out in the Colorado mountains. So putting him in a house and in like a little suburban neighborhood was sort of like not his normal territory, maybe making him possibly not as reliable in his indications, maybe, or what else, his applying his learned skills. So
yeah,
they put their scent in, I know like in the outdoor one near the dumpster, they put the scent, it was like near an outhouse, right? So they talk about that there because Jane's dog is freaking out. You know that bark. And then she's on the phone with her dad, and he says, I know exactly what the dog is doing. Their scent is there. Like I can't remember the whole conversation, but they put the scent there. So Mike, my understanding is in that situation, at least, the dog did hit on the planted scent. And then, okay, so my understanding was that then proved to them that the dog was accurate or reliable. And then, they went off on their little journey. They walked for about, I don't know, let's say 10 minutes. It was a couple blocks away. They walked back through the backyard of the properties, went across the street, went down the street a little bit. To your right is the field. To the left is the red dumpster on Bella Mesa. And then the dog on the dumpster, separate from the planted scent. That's my understanding. So, I mean, I could be wrong, but Turquoise says, yes, they did put the scent there to make sure the dog hit.